Okay, all right. You've landed on Island 49. I'm your host, Weston Smith. This evening, I want to get to the topic at hand, which is obviously the promotion of Sam Darnold to QB number 2, hence the demotion of Trey Lance and what that means for him and his future as a 49er. So right after the intro, we'll get into it. All right, so let's get into it. It's funny because I toyed with not even touching this subject matter just because it's been the talk of the town for God knows how many years. This entire offseason is what to make of the 49ers quarterback position ever since, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have stepped into leadership, and even before that, but it's been a blunder nonetheless. The more I sat down and tried to organize my thoughts, I feel like the more disorganized I was actually coming, because my brain is running in so many different directions. My heart is going in one direction. So let's just sound it out. I have no idea where this is going to go tonight. I thought about live streaming this on YouTube, but I figured I'd just record it, get my thoughts out there. And then I encourage you all to leave your comments. Let's talk about it. Obviously, it's going to be an ongoing topic till we get to the season, and once the season begins, depending upon the play of the quarterback and quote unquote what could have been, if number 5 was still around or was still in the discussion, competing for slot 1 or even slot 2, depending. So, as a fan, I'm disheartened. I just can't help but think back to that 2021 draft, my reaction in my basement while watching the draft when the 49ers selected Trey Lance with the 3rd overall pick, and just can't help but think of like what that meant for the future of this franchise. A lot of us were disappointed with the play in the injury health around Jimmy in 2020, so it looked like a potential savior was here. Everything felt good. I mean, Jesus, I'm in a hype video from a recording of my reaction in the basement on how excited I was, posted by North Dakota State, picked up by the NFL Network with over 500,000 views. So I, like you, was thrilled when they drafted Trey Lance. How often does your team pick the player that, based on where they traded up to, where they were slotted to pick the player that you wanted your team to pick? Like, that doesn't ordinarily happen unless you have the number 1 overall pick, and it's a consensus number 1 overall player on the board. Here we are, 2 complete seasons later, and it's all but forgotten. So evident by the way that Brock Purdy played at the end of the 2022/2023 season. Even with the injury, this QB1 slot was more than likely his and earned with his small sample size on the field and how far the team went, and that lightning in the bottle that we saw with the offense and how it just catapulted, 30 plus points a game, etc. Defense was playing lights out, obviously a threat to be reckoned with. But then here we are, right at the start, start of free agency, Sam Darnold's brought in, and you have to start to wonder a little bit, like, what does that mean? Now, personally, like, on my show I do with Lou, I've came out and said that I wasn't threatened by, or if I'm Trey Lance, I'm not threatened by the signing of Sam Darnold. This is the NFL. Like, you can never have enough good players at a position, or build enough competition at a position is probably the better terminology. But the writing was on the wall, right? Like, a veteran in this league, who has a number of starts under his belt, has played stiff competition. He was certainly going to add to the competition level in practice and in the offseason to maybe drive Trey to go earn that number 2 slot, play into the number 1 slot, show that progression year over year as a young kid who just hasn't seen a lot of football and played a lot of snaps specifically in this league. And you hung on to that thought for a long time, that Sam wasn't going to be a threat, Trey absolutely was going to outplay and earn the right to be a clear consensus number 2 and potentially push for number 1. That was the hope. And then here we are as, I don't want to say as fools. It's just funny how when the result reveals itself, which is what we saw today, how they always say hindsight's 2020, and then how you go back and look and see all the pieces and along the way that add up to like this might have been a foregone conclusion before we even got to camp, before we even saw what these two players look like in the preseason games. Because from what I saw in the preseason games and what you see of highlight clips, and for all the reporters and media heads that are at these practices, there was no indication that Sam Darnold outpaced or outplayed Trey Lance to go ahead and earn that number 2 slot. So why? We talk all the time about the collateral that was given up to go get Trey Lance at number 3. And now it starts to feel like, was Trey the guy they traded to get to that slot? Or did they get to that slot because they felt like they wanted to address the quarterback position and they were going to let the evaluation play itself out? We talk a lot about the mismanagement of the quarterback position. For me, I wonder if it's a mismanagement of the development of Trey Lance or if it is a mismanagement of the evaluation of Trey Lance. Two totally different things. Could be a combination of both. Who made the decision on to draft Trey if 2 years later, here we are, for all intents and purposes, moving on from this individual, might not ever see another snap as the San Francisco 49ers quarterback. Like I have no idea what to truly make of it, but I don't want to completely shit on Kyle. I don't want to completely shit on John. I think luck and the situation has something to do with this. If I was to critique anything in the mismanagement of this situation, I'm going to go back to the 2021 season, where midway through the season, a lot of struggles, from the offense, a lot of questionable decision making by Jimmy, games that we could have won that we lose because of a blunder from Jimmy at the time. Felt like it was probably the opportunity to say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and transition this thing to Trey, and we're going to ride this out with the talented roster that we have around him. That didn't happen as a consensus, and yet they ended up playing in the NFC Championship game and losing to the LA Rams, but kept that win now window open. And then we go into the fast forward to the 2022 season. Trey's given the keys. Starts week 1 against Chicago. Hard to judge. A monsoon game. And then week 2, offense is humming on that first drive and a half. And then he, breaks his ankle, foot. And then here we are, and then it goes back to Jimmy. And then the team starts to get on, get a little bit of momentum and get on a run. Jimmy gets hurt. Brock comes in, catch lightning in a bottle, go undefeated through the remainder of the season to the NFC Championship game. He gets hurt. You lose. We go home, etc. So I feel like the mismanagement goes back to 2021. I don't fault them for the 2022 season. Injuries are outside of the control of leadership of any team and the coaching staff of any team. Trey was given a chance. Unfortunate luck that he gets hurt. Jimmy plays. He goes down. Brock plays for all intents and purposes reasonably well. Well enough to win as many games as they did in the back half of the season, and appear in an NFC Championship game with an opportunity to compete to go to the Super Bowl. The funny thing is if Jimmy doesn't get hurt during the year, and let's say they lose in the first round of the playoffs, or they lose in the same exact scenario in the NFC Championship game, and it was Jimmy as the quarterback, here we'd still probably be coming back to like, this is Trey Lance's team go forward. The unfortunate side of this is a rookie draft pick, 7th round draft pick, Mr. Irrelevant, came in, and like I keep using this term, but he caught lightning in a bottle. He's got a lot of playmakers around him. The team did really well. They went really far. And then all of a sudden, like, he's the unsung hero. So again, played himself into the QB1 spot. So I think the mismanagement is more of the mismanagement of Trey Lance and his development was missing the opportunity to plug him in at the 2021 season in that midway point, or hell, even just hey, I gave up all this collateral. I'm going to go ahead and start him from day one. I believe in the talent around him. I think we'll go far enough. But the reality is, leadership probably looks at this team and says, we put more stock in winning now than we are developing for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the line. And this is the situation that we find ourselves in. So as a fan, I'm disheartened. Nobody wanted Trey to succeed more than I do. I have this conversation like every single day with other 49er fans about how much I just was rooting for the guy. I think a vast majority of us were, and really hoping that he could be the one, because I think some of the more knowledgeable of the fan base would look at this and say, okay, floor ceiling conversation. Brock, higher floor, lower ceiling, right? Trey, lower floor, higher ceiling. Makes sense. Brock to me feels very much like a notch above a game manager, right? Which is what kind of Kyle got in the groove with around Jimmy, a guy to manage the game, can manage the quick game, hopefully doesn't turn the ball over a ton of time, can make a play when push comes to shove, right? But let the players around you do the majority of the work. Let's win as a team. Trey gave you the feeling, although raw and although clearly still needed to be developed. I don't think anybody, even in our excitement of drafting Trey Lance, was like, this guy's a finished product. He's got to play right now and watch him set the world on fire. You knew there was going to be growing pains. You knew it was going to take some time. This guy just needed reps, needed action. But when you look at some of the intangibles that Trey presents, his ability, I don't want to call him as a runner, as a scrambler, right? His ability, big arm talent, for all intents and purposes, seems like a good guy, a leader, a heady guy, a hard worker, etc. Those are the things that you feel like, okay, give him the opportunity to maybe get to the next level. I'm not saying Trey Lance has the ability or would ever have the outcome of becoming Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, any of those guys. But the good news is this team was so talented around him. Even if he was a notch below them, or even 2 notches below them, those individuals, you got to like the team's chances. The reality is we just never got to see that to come to fruition with injuries and the way that this shook out. And the truth is this team's window is getting smaller, right? Like, you have now a lot of big contracts out there, players that are getting a little further along in their career. What's their productivity level going to look like on a secondary contract versus when they're playing under rookie contracts and taking the league by storm? There's a lot of things to factor into this scenario that the decision was made. What I can say about the decision is, gosh, it's bold, right? Gotta hope they're right. What I appreciate about the decision is, this is a team, or leadership feels confident enough of this team that they can make that brash statement that, you know what, we've seen enough. We understand the direction that we're going. We believe in number 13 more than we believe in the potential development of 5. Let's go get this thing. You got to actually appreciate that, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you agree with the decision or not, you have to appreciate the fact that it's like somewhat admitting that this was a mistake. And then again, what was the mistake? The belief in developing an individual, or the mismanagement of the evaluation in the first place, that this guy, was worthy of the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft to come to this team and give up what you gave up to go get him. On the subject of the collateral that was given up, that's a sunk cost now. Yeah, it could bite this team, very well could bite this team in the ass 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons down the road when you don't have 2 of those first round picks, or that third round pick, that you coupled with that package to go. Those could have been players, right? They didn't have to be quarterbacks. I mean, one of them could have been Micah Parsons, right, to add to this defense. There's the potential. You never know if a team's going to swing and miss on that first round talent. It happens all the time. But the potential to add players to this team that could be immediate contributors and continue to contribute for the foreseeable future under controllable salaries in the short term as well. So you could play the what if game all day long. The reality is Brock better be the guy. And if I'm being truthful, this is not a knock on Brock Purdy. I just think he's not. And when I say not, like, he's not going to reach those those levels, in my opinion, right? He's not going to reach the upper echelon of the talented quarterbacks in the NFL to date. I just didn't, I know he's young. I know it's a small sample size, so you can't write him off as fast as you can't anoint him as the savior. I'm just giving you my opinion that I just don't feel like he's going to be that guy. And I think this season might be really telling. And I'm willing to bet if I had to put the over under, I'd say there's a 75% chance that we're probably having the same conversation rolling into 2024 that we've had rolling into 2021, 2022, 2023. Who is the quarterback of the future for this team? It's just what my gut tells me. I right, wrong, or different, crucify me in the comments. I get it. I'm here for open dialogue. I'm just telling you, do I think Brock right now probably fits this offense a little bit better in terms of what Kyle is comfortable and where he knows we've had been highly productive over a few years? Yes, I actually do believe that. But what I am telling you, and what I think you would all agree with, is the expectation for this team is to get to a Super Bowl and to win that Super Bowl. I mean, 3 out of the last 4 seasons you play in the NFC Championship game, the bar's set, right? Like anything less than even that is a complete failure, especially coming off of the statement of we are moving on from wasted draft capital and we are going with this guy. So let's say they get to the Super Bowl and you see a team led by Brock Purdy, or you see a team led by Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, although I don't really actually believe the Jets will even sniff that. But just saying, you see those names there. What team are you picking to win? Honestly, what team are you going to pick to win? I'm a 49ers fan, and I don't even know if I would pick the 49ers in that scenario, because on the biggest stage in a one-and-done game, in the most important position in all of professional sports, you want that guy, that special guy who can make a special play, the rabbit out of the hat. That's the guy whose team is more than likely going to win this game. They don't even have to go, complete 70% of their passes and throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and not turn the ball over in that game, because we've seen that. Where Mahomes hasn't had great games and has won Super Bowls, but he's made big plays and big moments. And you believe in that more than you believe in the guy that we argued about all offseason is a dinker and dunker, right? Have you ever heard the words dink and dunk associated to those names that I've mentioned before? Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. No, they get chunk plays. They push the ball down the field. They make spectacular throws, probably completed with a spectacular catch, but the ball put in a place where maybe only their guy can go get it and make a play, and they trust in that. That's the difference. And I'm not crucifying Brock for this. I know he literally just completed his first season in the NFL, right? So I don't expect him to be that. My gut just tells me he never gets to that. So what's to prevent us from being in that same position next year with an even shorter window, where this team's gonna say, hey, we've kind of pushed the chips all in now. Long-term development's out, is out the door, is come and gone. Who do we go get now? Right? So we're all going to start to tell the jokes. Kirk Cousins will be here in 2024. I don't know how much of a joke that really is. That really could be extremely realistic, that our quarterbacks now are on the hot seat. God, I know I told you in the beginning I was going to be all over the place. My mind is just like spinning right now as to like why, what now. And I want your opinions and I want your feedback related to this, because I don't know the answer. I mean, I thought I knew how this thing was going to shake out. I think, the vast majority of the people that you follow in the social media world and in the podcasting world thought they knew how this was going to shake out. And then you see a lot of people having to hedge their bets. Now, there certainly were a few people that, smelt the tea leaves real early when the Sam Darnold thing came over, and we're paying really close attention to what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan were saying in the offseason. But that was more for like the QB1 scenario, because at that time we were still like, who's QB1, right? Brock didn't go win the Super Bowl. He didn't finish the NFC Championship game. How's this UCL thing going to shake out? Is he even going to be back for the start of the season? I think a lot of it started to come to fruition when Brock really did look like he was going to be back, recovered well from the surgery and was ready to play the game. That made the decision easy around QB1. That punted the decision now to QB2. Who's that going to be? And here we are. Sam Darnold's the anointed one as of today. Who knows? I don't know how to justify that. If it's my decision, that's not the decision I make. But it's not my decision. What I can say is somebody who's been watching the NFL for 35 years, you don't tend to see young, undeveloped guys as backup quarterbacks in the NFL. You might see them as third string, right? You might see them as practice squad, or you might see them get thrusted immediately into the starting lineup based on their draft position. And they learn on the fly. But when you look around the NFL, and I'm speculating, I mean, if I loaded NFL rosters right now, I'd bet 60+% of the teams are carrying experienced veterans as backups, or guys that have just been in the league a while. They might not have as much playing time experience as Sam Darnold, but have been around the league, been around that team, and in a pinch can go in and maybe win a game, right? I don't know. The jury for me is still real out on Sam Darnold. I think he has a lot of plus attributes, but I also think he has equally as many, if not more, negative attributes that are why he finds himself in the position that he's in right now as a backup in the NFL and no longer a starter. I see what's to love about him. Guy's got a big arm. He can make a lot of good throws. His decision making's terrible. He is sneaky athletic. He can scramble. He can move around. I don't know. Right? I don't know. I don't think he outplayed Trey, but I understand the appeal to him. And I understand the appeal of, like, I don't have to develop this guy. I'm just getting him more skills and I'll put him in favorable positions if he should ever have to see the field. But history tells us he's going to have to see the field. It's been since 19 that we've had a quarterback start and finish the entire season. It's been that long. That's the way that Lady Luck has treated us in the with the 49ers over essentially the 2020, 2021, and 2022 NFL season. Is it reasonable to expect a similar result in 2023 that maybe Sam Darnold's going to have to see the field? I don't know. What I do know is that if I'm really pissed off about this entire scenario, I'll admit it. I'm butthurt as a fan because I just really wanted Trey Lance to succeed. I just really did. And that's not because I didn't want Brock to succeed. Let me be very clear on this, and I say this all the time. I'm a 49ers fan first. I was a 49ers fan before these guys got here. I'll be a 49ers fan well after these guys got here. So I just want a competent quarterback, and I just want to celebrate. I have a bottle of champagne, 49ers branded champagne that I've now had here for 3 years that I am waiting to pop for the hoisting of that 6th Lombardi. That's what I want. What I do is I talk a little bit about who I think gives us the better shot to get there. But yes, I am butthurt over, the way this is shaked out for Trey. I'm going to fall short of saying I think he was given a raw deal. I think some bad luck factored into this, and maybe some poor decision making along the way. Right? That's where I'll leave it. What I'm really most upset about is that announcement comes out today. And then the 49ers march up Fred Warner and Javon Hargrave to the podium. So no John Lynch, no Kyle Shanahan to answer the announcement of Sam Darnold has won QB number 2 slot and that Trey Lance wasn't even at practice today. So you're leaving players to answer questions about decisions that weren't theirs to make. We don't know the full locker room dynamic. I'm sure Fred Warner loves Trey Lance. I'm sure they get along great outside of a little smack talking in practice and whatnot. And now he's got to sit up there and answer questions about, like, his buddy that he knows on a personal level and is also a professional teammate of. Javon Hargrave just got here. Like, he has no idea what's going on in this scenario and what's been playing out. And these are the guys that are, because the media is doing their job. They're going to ask the questions. If I was in that room, I'm going to ask the questions on whoever gets up to that podium. These aren't the right guys. If you're going to make a bold decision like that, have some balls and back it up and stand by it, right? And then you have Kyle going on KNBR, flagship station for the San Francisco 49ers, talking about that, like, this isn't us giving up on Trey. This is more of how Brock played last year and earned the right. Okay. I get the second half of that statement. Don't buy the first half of that statement. And then also how good Sam has looked. And then he catches himself and backpedals a little bit saying they both look good, i.e., meaning Sam and Trey. I think this is rhetoric. And here, and just, boilerplate, cookie cutter, whatever terminology you want to use. That's what I get from this statement. I don't love how it's being issued. I think you stand up there. Kyle, it's your team, right? You're still winning football games. We'll critique you, but if the winning continues, the critiques will go away. It is what it is. Get up behind your decision. Don't send your players out there as sacrificial lambs. Captains or not, like, you don't send those guys out there. You gotta stand up for your decision. Send a PR guy out there, for crying out loud, right? Like, whatever it is. But I don't believe we're giving up on Trey. What I just am so baffled about this is, like, okay, if they've been shopping Trey all this long, they've done a really poor job of bolstering his value in the marketplace. And then to come out and say we're not giving up on him, I think this is just backpedaling and cover your ass mode, in the sense of, like, there's still actually a chance that Trey is a part of this team come week 1. That might change given injury scenarios, etc. There's still a chance. And the chance is because if you were to outright cut Trey Lance, dead money in the cap when you are cap strapped already. Now, if you trade him, you can save a little bit of money. Gives you a little bit of flexibility in this season. Should something happen and you got to go get some people off the street and you want to bring somebody in. But then it becomes the balance of, like, what's acceptable in a trade at this point. Go back to we went from 12 to 3 and then traded the next year, 2 years, first round draft picks and a third in 2022 as part of this package. You're going to walk away with this guy, let this guy walk out your building for a 6th round pick, a 7th round pick, 5th best case scenario. And if I'm another team, why the hell am I a 5th round pick right now for this guy that they've all but given up on? So it just doesn't make sense, especially now when you can carry 3 and that third as an emergency QB doesn't have to count against it. I don't know, but wouldn't that be funny if all of a sudden he's still here and he's still in the mix, and throughout the weeks might find himself, onto the 46-man roster game day as the number 2. Like, it's like we've seen crazier things happen in the world of the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody all but wrote off Jimmy G after the 2021 season and said he's gone. The 49ers wrote him off. And yet there he was in 2022 starting a boatload of games due to injury. Wilder things have happened, but that is a cover your ass statement just in case. I mean, I don't know. I like I told you, I didn't know where this was going to go from the start. I just wanted to get all of these thoughts off my chest. I was getting tired of communicating them via text message to people reaching out and being like, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Jesus, right before I hit the record button, I had a buddy text me and say, can we just admit Trey Lance is a bust? And I won't admit that. Dude's played 4 games in the NFL. You can't sit here and say he's 23 years old still. Can't sit here and say he's a bust. What I could say is that the Trey Lance project in San Francisco has amounted to being a bust, but I'm not going to call the player a bust. I bet he latches onto some team. I bet he's given an opportunity as a flyer on a team that's still developing and is is more than a few pieces away, and they're working towards that. He'll be given a shot. And for the kid, I hope he balls out. But the reality is more likely than not, his time is done here in San Francisco. I think it's a shame. I think I wish Trey nothing but the best. I will be rooting for him, but now my concern is brought to Brock Purdy as QB1. I used this term 3 or 4 times before this moment about how how Brock seemingly caught lightning in a bottle with that run at the end of last season. Nobody, I don't care who you are, if you say you expected that, you are a flat out liar. You are a liar. Nobody expected Mr. Irrelevant to find the field and go on what amounts to an historical run in the back half of the season. In fact, most people, including myself, that I do talk to, when Jimmy went down in that game against Miami, everybody was like, here we go. Here we go. Season's over. Derailed because of injuries again. Started to feel like 2020 all over again. This loaded roster, but nobody could stay on the field. You lost QB1. You lost QB2. In marches the rookie, Mr. Irrelevant. Whatever. Wanted to see what he could do. Didn't feel good. Didn't feel confident in it. And then he caught that lightning in a bottle. Now, no expectations, right, of that individual. Start winning a few games. You know, the NFL is a momentum-driven league, and the momentum was in the San Francisco 49ers' favor. It was in Brock Purdy's favor. So it kept going. But if he was to lose a game, everybody, you chalk it up to, dude, we got our third-string rookie in there. Like, what are we supposed to do about that? Make it to the NFC Championship game. So for a team that still has those and carries those expectations, you are now unquestionably the starter. They have essentially all but demoted the player that you replaced, that they gave up a boatload of assets for to go get. That's a different pressure world that Brock's going to find himself in. I'm literally not even speculating whether or not he can handle it. I wouldn't do that to the young kid. What I'm telling you is it's just different. You are playing with a different set of expectations. Now he's going to have to stand up after losses. He hasn't had to do that yet, right? Like, yeah, the Eagles didn't be like, what do you want me to do? UCL. Like, I got hurt. Sucks. Maybe things would have been different a bit on the field. But what happens when he finishes a full game and they lose? Now he's got to answer to that. How does that carry into practice? How does that carry into the next game? How short-term is his memory if he's throwing picks? Has a bad game? We didn't really see a bad game. I just think it's wishful thinking to think that you're going to get that consecutively and consistently from this individual. Like, this is where I expect the bumps in the road. And that's why I expect Sam Darnold, if he's going to be your QB2, might find the field if there's too many bumps in the road. I mean, Kyle just showed his hand. We don't want to develop the kids. We don't want to. Okay. Now what? If number 13 struggles? You don't want to develop him? You're going to kick him to the curb? You're going to march in Sam? Okay. We'll see. And I'm not saying Trey would have carried this team or not. I just think long-term, right? Like, I just think like projection. If this guy had given reps, this team was good enough, in my opinion, to insulate him from some of those growing pains, bail him out in a couple spots. But I don't know, man. I don't think this is the same team as the previous 2 years. I think this team's now a little bit older. Is unequivocally less deep than the teams that we have, seen over the previous 2 seasons. So we'll see, man. I'm nerve-wracked. I can't wait for the season to get here, but don't let that dissuade you. I'm nerve-wracked before every season, before every game, at the end of every season. I'm like, thank God the season's over. My heart can recover. My life can recover. I need this break. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, when's the NFL season back? Right? Like, it's just the nature of it. But exciting times. Like we've always talked about, the 49ers are the gift that keep on giving, especially around this quarterback content. And I expect it to go on and on and on. Now what you're going to get a lot of, from the fan base more than anything is, let's say there's some struggles for 13. And then all of a sudden they're going to be like, well, I think Trey would have outplayed, right? It's just the second guessing and the speculation and the hindsight. My advice, decision's been made. Agree with it, disagree with it, it's fine. But now it's time to turn the page, see how that plays out in terms of like, is he staying or going? That's fine. I don't think anything really affects us. I'm at this point because your decision's been made. But turn the page. Number 13 is the quarterback. Let's get on this bandwagon. Let's support Brock, because we all ultimately want the same thing. And if you don't, you're not a fan of this team. You're not. If you're praying for Brock to not succeed. So you were right about Trey Lance. Fuck out of here. Right? Fuck out of here. That's terrible. Like, team first, right? Like, and I'm not telling you how to be a fan, but I'm just saying that's not fandom. Fandom is for the team. And the longer you're around this league, the harder it is to really get behind players, because it's hard to grow emotionally attached to them and watch them go because they go so often. I mean, I grew up in an era where if you were on a team and you were drafted by the team, you were on that team for a long, long, long time. You could buy that jersey, they'd be there forever unless they retired or got injured and out of the league, right? Like now, once that rookie contract's up, who knows, right? You bring in that big time free agent that you love so much, sign him to a 3-year deal. There's an out after year 1. It doesn't pan out. He's gone. Like, it's just the league. It's a business, more so than ever before. In my opinion, it's just unfortunate because I mentioned not having emotional attachments to players. I broke my own rule and I had an emotional attachment to Trey Lance. Want him to be there. I still think he will succeed in this league. I believe in that. I just think he needs to get the right chance. But go forward. It's Brock's team. It's Brock's team, and so help us God if it has to become Sam Darnold's team. Because we'll all be seeing a very, very different tune about how comfortable we might have been with our QB2 slot. So that's it. Please, if you watch the content, leave a comment. I don't care if you rip me apart. I told you this was going to be all over the place. I have a full notebook here of things that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about. I don't even know if I talked about them. I just figured I'd come out here and freestyle. I hadn't been on Island 49 in quite some time. My wife and I had baby number 2, so I took some time off from podding just to be a dad and enjoy the time off I had from my day job. But the season's here, back. Shout out to Steph Sanchez. You saw she put some content out on Twitter about how I'll be joining her every Monday as a kind of post-game relook or glimpse back, if you will, evaluation of the 49ers game on Sunday previous to it, and what to look for in the coming weeks. So I'm really excited about that content she'll be putting out. And of course, I'll be doing a ton on Island 49. Come check us out on the We're Talking Football podcast with Lou and I. But nonetheless, again, like I said, want your feedback, want your opinions. As always, hit the like, hit the subscribe, give me a follow. Tell me what topics you want to talk about. I'm always game to talk about our San Francisco 49ers. I'll do more live shows. I want you to come on. Let's debate. My opinion, I'm not sitting here and saying my opinion's right. I'm just giving you my opinion. I feel pretty adamant about my opinion. I feel like it is based in more fact than it is speculation and just my knowledge of the game and being a fan as long as I've been, specifically of this team. So but let's have fun with it, man. That's what it's all about. Being a fan is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to drive us crazy, but yet here it is, another day in the life of a 49er fan where it is driving you crazy. So again, I'm Weston Smith. Appreciate you tuning in to Island 49. See you on the flip side.